Hello everyone, this is your friend Shinobi Nexus 2.0 and we are back in new fanfic. What if Naruto was abandoned by his family and reborn as a legendary Saiyan in Dragon Ball Z? Part 4. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. While Naruto and his clone were fighting, the shinobi were confused as to what to do. These two aliens had just suddenly appeared and the purple alien wanted revenge against him, having put shame to his family after defeating Frieza. What should we do, Hokage-sama? We should try to help in some way. We just got Naruto back and I don't want to lose him again. Anko said, with concern in her voice, surprising many people hearing the interrogation sadist acting like this of all people except for the few who knew how close they were when he was younger. Minato was thinking about it as well, wanting to help, but also could feel the power coming from them, knowing he would be only getting in the way. He wasn't the only one thinking like this, as everyone had shown up. Even Narumi and Kasumi arrived wanting to know what was going on. He sighed at having an answer, but knew what would be the response he'd get. We wait. We don't know what this guy is capable of, and despite wanting to help him, we can't understand how much power I'm sensing from him. It's not chakra, but it's the same as Naruto and it's off the charts. He told them, who were looking at him worried and others as if he's crazy. But he's after my baby. We can't let him fight him alone, can we? Kushina asked, concerned for her son as she tears were threatening to leave. I agree with Kushina on this one. He'll need our help in fighting him and we outnumber him. Makoto said, agreeing with her friend. What about the other one though? She's fighting a clone which won't be as strong as the original. Kasumi asked, when everyone looked at the two who were fighting at what looked like blurs. Don't you sense it? It's the same as Naruto's, meaning that it's not weak and will hold its own against her. Minato pointed out as the sensors reached out to see if he was right, and it seemed he was. Speaking of Naruto's clone and Fasha, they were exchanging blows trying to find a gap in their forms, but so far none were being seen until Fasha threw a kick that he caught with his arm, holding it in place as he pulled her towards him and elbowed her in the face, sending her away, but she caught herself from crashing and rushed back in with a grin, never leaving her face, having a blast at fighting him. She quickly appeared behind him, bringing her leg down, which would have connected had Naruto not turned around in time to block it with his arms in AX, which sent him skidding down to the ground where he landed. She charged at him as Naruto prepared for her when she suddenly vanished and he was kicked in the side, but didn't have time to react when she reappeared and used a hammer fist before striking him in the head, sending him into the ground that created a crater as smoke filled the area, concealing everyone's vision. Naruto's clone was face first into the ground as she approached him to finish him. She got close enough as she charged a key ball in her hand, ready to fire it when Naruto did a sweep at her legs, causing her fall as he kicked her in the chin, sending her upwards as the clone got up with a smirk on his face, but then gained a serious look and decided to end things now, so he can help take care of Cooler. He shouted as his power started rising as Fasha landed, waiting for him to make a move, with the area shaking as it was rising rapidly, startling the sensors, with the others wondering what was going on as they all saw the clone's aura being seen and it flared around him. It lasted for a few seconds before he stopped, feeling this should be enough. The clone shot up at Fasha, who was too slow to react as she was sent flying with a punch to her jaw that felt like it was shattered from the force alone. She skidded back and charged at him, but every strike she would send he was dodging with no difficulty, which was annoying her. She sent a right cross to his cheek, but was caught with his hand before he slammed her into the ground. He grabbed her arm and threw her in the air. She righted herself and took a stance, but again wasn't prepared when Naruto had shot multiple key blasts at her and brought her arms in front of her when an explosion went off. The smoke cleared to Fasha, looking a little worse off as she had some burns on her body, her clothes were partially torn, and she was breathing heavier. Fasha was getting frustrated with her enemy having not been able to do anything since he powered up. He was much stronger than her since she was at her max already. In a blind rage she gathered ki in her hands as they started to glow pink when she smirked knowing this would shake things up. Naruto saw this and brought up and charged his own attack that was blue as he knew if she succeeded that it would cause a large amount of destruction which would hurt if not kill the shinobi and his family and friends. Full power energy wave. Majestic spiral wave. They shouted as they each fired off their attacks, colliding against the other as they pushed back and forth for dominance. Fasha was gritting her teeth in concentration as she was putting everything she had into it to kill the clone. The clone was struggling to hold it as he could feel himself beginning to lose the energy that was used to summon him. He had to end this now before it was too late. He roared as he pushed his power to the limit with not before long began pushing the attack back at her making her eyes widen in disbelief as she watched her attack being pushed back. It wasn't pointless as no matter how much she pushed back, nothing worked and was soon engulfed in the two attacks as they exploded. Arg! She screamed with the explosion causing the winds to pick up as everyone had to shield themselves and add chakra to keep themselves from flying off from the force. When it died down, they could see Fasha falling down unconscious. When she was a few feet from hitting the ground, the clone caught her and floated to the ground when he saw Minato approach him cautiously. Despite her being unconscious, she was still dangerous. Minato saw the clone set her down and roller her on her side, confusing him, wondering what he's doing when he saw him pull something that was on her neck and saw his son get a scowl on his face and crushed whatever it was into pieces. What was that? He asked the clone, who calmed down and looked at his father. It was AC that was used on Fasha to control her. The reason I knew it was there was because it wasn't the first time I had seen one. It was in the same spot with Jin Wen Bulma and I found it on her, he responded as he nodded and handed her over to him. Don't do anything to her and make sure no one tries to harm her in any way since she was forced to be here and to serve Cooler. He added as his dad nodded. With that being said, the clone dispersed, leaving Minato to take her back to the others. What did Naruto say? Kushina asked, walking up to her husband. He asked us to watch over her, so no one tries anything against her. It was Cooler's fault that she was following orders. From what Naruto said, she had mind controlling C on the back of her neck to force her to serve him without hesitation and complete loyalty. He said with a scowl on his face as the others weren't faring better after hearing that. That's horrible. I can't imagine how she must feel when she wakes up to find out she's been a slave for years. Kushina said with her own scowl. For now though, we need to go check on Naruto and make sure he's alright. Tsunade commented, getting nods from the others who were also worried about the Saiyan. Neko, Hana, Hiruzen, Asuma, and Kurenai all need you to watch over her while we go check on our son. I'm counting on you 5. Okay. Minato asked with them nodding in understanding as they watched them go. Back with Original and Cooler, their battle had been even so far, and that's Naruto without having used Matabi's chakra yet. He had his eyes activated, which was a big help in evading his attacks and to counter them. Naruto and Cooler flew at each other and grabbed each other's wrist, trying to overpower the other as their powers rose along with the pressure being put out by them, which caused the ground to start shaking. Cooler brought his knee up hoping to hit him in the chin, but Naruto let go and back flipped away, but didn't see Cooler behind him as he elbowed him in the back of the head, which caused him to head the ground, but Naruto righted himself and caught his balance and landed on the ground. He flew after the older brother as their fists met in the middle, causing a shockwave tat emitted from them. While they were struggling, Naruto decided it was time to get serious as he activated his NCM, Nibi Chakra mode, with his power skyrocketing than it was just a second ago. He easily overpowered him, pushing him back, before he kicked him in the chest and appeared behind him and gave an X kick into the ground that exploded. The rubble around him exploded as Cooler came into view looking worse for wear, but he appeared behind Naruto wanting to get the drop on him, but Naruto was prepared and grabbed his wrist before he pulled him towards him and elbowed him in the face and appeared behind him as he grabbed his tail had spun him around before throwing into back to the ground. He wasn't done as he held his hands in a familiar stance. Kamehameha. A blue beam escaped from his hands that went straight at Cooler, and when it impacted where he was, it created an explosion that forced everyone to shield their eyes from the dust and smoke. Naruto waited for Cooler to come up as he knew that he wasn't dead since he could still sense his energy. He wasn't surprised when he jumped out of the ground and appeared across from him, but the shinobi who were watching looked in horror at seeing him alive after taking an attack like that, and they looked over at Naruto, and to see he wasn't even surprised startled them, especially his family and his friends who were now worried for him. He dusted himself off with a smirk on his face. Well now, that's quite the amount of power you have there, Saiyan. I'm impressed with your strength, but playtime is over. Cooler said as he shouted as his power rose and his body started to change, making Naruto have a sense of dread, causing him to cover his eyes from the wind picking up. Cooler's body began to transform. He grew bigger as his chest and muscle expanded, his white armor plates started to change into different shapes, his head got encased except his eyes and mouth, 4 spikes extending from his cranium and a large dark blue gem in the middle. Naruto was now worried since his power was way above what it was before and knew this would be much more difficult. Naruto didn't get a chance to do anything as Cooler suddenly was in front of him with his fist embedded in his stomach, making him cough up blood. Fast. I never saw him move. He's way above Frieza in terms of speed and power, he said mentally. Naruto tried punching him, but found his fist caught in his grasp and winced when he started squeezing it. Cooler used his other hand and punched him in the chest, sending him crashing. Cooler was again in front of him with his tail out ready to pierce him, but his tail went through him as Naruto used Kamui to become intangible to escape him. He shot out ki blasts when Cooler flew at him, but it wasn't enough to stop him. Cooler grabbed his face and slammed him into the mountain before he slammed him again into the ground that created a trench. Naruto flew out of the ground and was breathing heavily with various wounds on him, but he would keep fighting. He brought his hands out as familiar orbs appeared in his fingers on both hands though. Minato and others saw this and were wondering what he was doing when they saw the 5 elements appear with one in each finger, finding this amazing at using 5 elements simultaneously. Double Hell's almighty beam, he shouted as the beams left his fingers, with Cooler looking at them amused when he decided to let them hit as it connected and caused an explosion. Naruto was panting, having put everything into that attack, and his worries turned to horror when the dust settled and he saw an unharmed Cooler with his arms crossed over his chest. "Now way!" Minato shouted in disbelief. That shouldn't be possible. Kushina was of a similar mind as was everyone else. Naruto-kun put everything in that attack, it looks like he did absolutely nothing to him. Hokage-sama, we should do something now, Makoto said in urgency, seeing Naruto step back from his surprise and fear. I will admit, monkey, that was quite the power you put into it, but as you can see it wasn't enough. Now I'm growing bored, so it's time I end this. Cooler said when Naruto found a fist in his stomach, and then the next thing he knew he felt several punches to his chest and a kick sending him away into a nearby mountain. Naruto got out of the rubble slowly, feeling a lot of pain from the attacks. Naruto was panting heavily. Well, his power and speed have gone up inconsiderably and have even surpassed Frieza. He really is his brother, but I won't quit, he said as he focused on the brother who was smirking at him. Naruto calmed himself as panicking won't help him against this guy. With new vigor he ascended into the air facing Cooler, who was still smirking at him. Naruto flew at faster speeds than before and Cooler felt a punch to his jaw that sent his back a little, but the smirk never left his face. Naruto appeared above him and brought a heel kick to his head, but Cooler dodged it and smacked him with his tail in the chest, pushing him back. Naruto charged again, sending out several punches and kicks, but Cooler was blocking them all with the same expression and it was pissing him off. All of a sudden he felt knee to his gut, he coughed up blood and held his stomach, but Cooler capitalized on the moment and used his tail to grip his neck and he sent several punches to his stomach, laughing maniacally as everyone watched in horror at seeing Naruto being beaten so easily. "Are you done already?" Cooler asked boredly, when Naruto brought his leg up, but was caught and he sent another punch with his other hand to his jaw, which again made him spit out blood. Naruto's body felt limp from the ult and he felt his chakra shroud end, leaving him back to normal. He threw the Saiyan down to the earth and descended on him, but was surprised to find him getting back up despite being nearly out of power, with his top being exposed, revealing his 8-pack abs and chiseled chest. "I guess you have some fight left in you still, but it's still not enough to beat me. Now for killing my brother, I should make you suffer for the emberment you put my family through." "How should I do that though, since killing you would be too merciful?" he asked him, but never got an answer, just a glare in response. "Oh, I know, you seem to be close to that group of people that showed up, as they've been talking about you a lot. Maybe I should kill them, what do you think?" he asked, with this time getting a response. "Like hell you will touch them, bastard. I won't let you." He raged at the threat towards his family. "Really? You won't let me? Let's test that, shall we?" he questioned with a mad grin when he pointed at where Kushina, Minato, Anko, Tsunade, Makoto, Narumi, and Kasumi were at, as he brought out a red orb that would easily kill them. "No, Cooler, don't," Naruto shouted with tears in his eyes, but it didn't do anything as he fired the key ball at them. His mind went to his reunion with his family, his friends, and teachers. How they all were happy and were able to be together again after years being apart. He then thought about Caulifla, Kale, Jine, Bulma, and his love for them. His rage was rising as he watched the ball get closer to them. He could already imagine their screams and death, and it was all because he was too weak to do anything. "Everyone," he whispered to himself as his hair started changing from black to golden along with his eyes to teal. "I won't lose anyone else ever again," he shouted as his body exploded in a golden blinding light. Kushina, Minato, and the others could do nothing as they watched their favorite Saiyan get beaten by the monster, and it horrified them to see such brutality happen, and it brought tears to their eyes at how they couldn't do anything to help him. They then saw Naruto on the ground unable to move and got even more scared when he mentioned killing them, and they couldn't move or do anything as they saw an orb appear above his finger and shot it at them. It was at that moment when they saw a bright golden light that forced them to close their eyes, and they were waiting for the ball to end their lives. When nothing happened, they slowly opened their eyes and saw something amazing in front of them. Naruto was different again, but he wasn't in his tailed beast cloak. His body looked more muscular, yet still lean. His hair was now golden yellow with his hair spiked up, and his body was lit in the same yellow glow as his hair along with his tail. What really surprised everyone was that he was holding the ball in his hand with no difficulty before he threw it back at Cooler, who was forced to get out of the way of it. When Naruto turned around, they could see his eyes were now teal instead of his usual onyx-colored ones. This brought awe from everyone, and the women had to fight down blushes, but it was mainly Anko, Hana, and Makoto. "Nah, Naruto?" Kushina asked worriedly, but relaxed when she saw him smile, who smiled back before he gained a serious look and looked back at Cooler, who was looking at him in intrigue, but wasn't concerned still. "So, is this the power that you used to kill my brother?" "No matter, it won't change the outcome," he said, bringing his hand up as he prepared another ball of ki on his finger, but Naruto suddenly appeared, grabbing his wrist as he punched him in the jaw, but he didn't let go. He sent a knee to his stomach, kick to his chest, and then a series of blows to his stomach and let go before he brought his foot up, kicking him in the chin, sending him further into the air. To everyone that was watching, it looked like blurs to everyone, with no one being able to see the attacks that Naruto gave him. Naruto brought his hands together and shot a large ki ball at Cooler, who had just enough time to cross his arms as the orb exploded, causing smoke to cloud everyone's vision. When the smoke cleared, Cooler had several cuts and they could see he was bleeding in several parts of his body, but what caught their attention was how angry he seemed to be getting. You, monkey. This can't be happening. I'm Cooler, the strongest being in the universe. I will not be beaten by a monkey like my little brother. He roared in rage as he brought his hands up as an orb formed and started getting bigger and bigger. Naruto floated to the ground watching, knowing the size of this attack would blow up the plane if it hit the ground. Naruto cupped his hands to meet the attack as it began glowing blue again. Ha, me, ha, me, ha. He finished as he shot the wave at Cooler's attack as he threw at Naruto, having been done dealing with this planet and would blow it up to hell. People were being blown away from the force of the clashed energy attacks as those who didn't were channeling as much chakra to their feet to keep them grounded were struggling to do so. It's over, Cooler. Naruto pushed even more energy, as he started pushing the attack back at Cooler, who was getting angrier as he saw he was being pushed back. No, he shouted as he was enveloped in the two attacks as they blew up, which caused a MIV explosion. Naruto waited for a minute for Cooler to appear, and when there was no sign of him, Naruto stretched out his senses to see if he was still alive, but his energy signature was completely gone, meaning it was over now. He relaxed his form as everyone saw this and ran up and started cheering and congratulating him. Naruto was laughing, but when he went back to base form he suddenly felt pain all over his body, and they noticed this and set him down as Kushina was next to him immediately. Sochi, are you okay? What do you need right now? She asked, as she was fussing over him, and the others could see him groaning at her antics and were chuckling, but the smile never left his face. Right now, I could use some rest, some food, and lots of water. I'm very hungry as fighting like that makes me extremely so, he said, as his stomach growled, making everyone laugh. For now though, Dad, can you head back to the compound? He asked his dad, who rose an eyebrow in curiosity. Why? He asked. He didn't say anything, but whispered something to him, which he nodded. He disappeared in a yellow flash, and it didn't take long for him to be back, and he gave him something and immediately ate it, and the results were instant. His body was healed from all injuries for everyone to see, his energy was back to normal, and he wasn't very hungry anymore. What did you give him? Anko asked, amazed, confused at what she just saw. It's called a senzu bean. I started growing them here and I was able to expedite the growing process since they can be very valuable, but I don't want everyone knowing about them, otherwise they'll get misused, and don't want the wrong people to learn about them. They can instantly heal wounds, restore your energy back to 100%, and make it wear as if nothing happened. He explained, getting odd looks from those that heard, and others were nodding in understanding. So they'll be clan secrets, right? Minato asked, with Naruto nodding in affirmative. There's one downside though, that I was never able to change when I started growing them, he said seriously, making everyone else look at him curious and have some worrying looks. What is that, Naruto-kun? Makoto asked nervously, hoping nothing would be wrong with him. They fill you up for 10 days when you take one still, and so I'm not hungry anymore. He grumbled annoyingly, with everyone looking with wide eyes until everyone started chuckling, which turned into laughter at his antics, worrying about food more than other things. Let's head back to the village now, Minato told the group as they nodded, and he turned towards the rest of the shinobi that were there. Let's go back now. The crisis has been taken care of, Minato exclaimed to them as they cheered and started making their way back to the village. What no one knew was that there was a Root Anbu operative who had seen and heard nearly everything and would need to report to his master. Before they could leave, they saw Naruto turn around as he looked at the S, knowing it would be a bad idea to leave it here, so with his decision made, he brought his hand out as giant key ball was formed when he threw it as it hit the S, immediately blowing it up, leaving nothing left for anyone to salvage from. Naruto walked back to the group and picked up Fasha bridal carry style, since he didn't trust anyone else except his family to watch her. Naruto and the others had managed to make it home and were able to rest, or in Naruto's case anyway. He had gone over what happened when he transformed, and now that it's happened twice now and he had a better idea of how to do it, he could start controlling it and then work to master the form. It was mid-afternoon now and he was going to start training in his Super Saiyan state in the morning, and he couldn't wait to get started. He wasn't alone though, as he was with Anko and Hannah, having been able to get out of T&I early today and got out of the vet's clinic early too, as everyone else still had things to do. What's it like on Earth? You said you live there and I want to hear about it and the different people there. Anko said. Well, let's see, there are interesting people that I know, that's for sure, but most of the people on Earth don't use ki or chakra. They aren't aware of it, I should say, so they're weak and normal, I guess you can say. Most of the people I'd associate with is Goku, who's a Saiyan like me, except he's a full-blooded one, his friend Krillin, Piccolo, who's a Namekian, and Bulma, who helped me adjust to life on Earth when I finished my training on the Lookout. He saw her confusion and explained how he lived and trained there for 11 years and got an education by studying under the goddess Kami. Anko just looked at him until she suddenly got in his lap and kissed him, with Hannah gaping at her friend's attitude, but couldn't help but feel a little jealous at seeing her make the first move. After all, not only was Naruto a great friend and extremely loyal and kind, he exerted an alpha's aura which drew her to him. I missed you a lot, Naruto-kun. You left me here when I could have gone with you and would have wanted to go with you. Anko said to him, surprising him, not having expected that. She's right. We've been friends for years and you left us alone here. Now you've changed so much and you'll be leaving again, but you don't know what, we don't want to miss out on being with you again. Why? He questioned, confused, as he tried to calm the blush that was on his face when they grinned at him. It's because we're your best friends, and I know I had Kurenai, Yugao, and Hannah, but it didn't feel the same as when you were here, so when you go back to Earth, we want to go with you. She still had her grin on her face, with Hannah being the same, making him sigh, knowing that this would be a losing battle for him. Okay, you can come back with me, but the S is only meant for one person, so that'll be a problem. He said to himself, when all of a sudden they heard a voice. I believe I can help with that. A familiar voice called out. King Kai, is that you? What do you have in mind? Have you heard from anyone back on Earth? How are they? Is Bulma okay? He asked the Kai quickly. Yes, they're all just fine, Naruto, and what I mean is that they can use the Namekian Dragon Balls to bring you and your friend back to Earth. Also, Bulma is great, but you'll hear from her when they summon you back, he told the three. Naruto merely slapped his forehead in not thinking of the idea, but Anko was confused about the voice and what was going on. I'm confused, who are you and am I going crazy? Anko asked, with Hannah of the same mind, making them chuckle at the IRR confusion. No, you're not going crazy, Anko. The person who is talking to us is King Kai, the one who trained Goku before he was brought back to life. Then there was. Goku has died before and was revived. Are the Dragon Balls really able to bring back the dead? Anko asked. She didn't know what to say to that. Yes, they are, but they have a limit to once and it has to be within a year's time. Krillin's died twice along with Xiaosu. The others have a chance to be brought back, having only died once. Anyway, King Kai, do you know when they plan to use them to do that? He asked the Kai, not seeing the shocked faces on the two girls. Yeah, they plan to use them in 2 months since they'll be usable then, but for you it'll be a month, the Kai told them, with Naruto nodding at the information. Alright, thanks for the notice, he said as they ended the conversation with King Kai, now with a lot on their minds. Well, looks like we have a month before then. Are you sure you want to go with me? You do have a life here already, right? Both of you, I mean. He asked, but they nodded in confirmation. Yes, we are. I also want to learn how to use ki and to get much stronger, so I can help if something happens again like with that alien. He made everyone here seem like a joke and he was barely even trying when you first started fighting him. I don't want to feel like that again. She told him, who nodded with a smile on his face. She's not wrong. I want to be strong, so I can protect my family and my friends. I want to be able to do what you can do. Hannah said with him nodding in understanding. Sure, I'd like to start training you, but know that I won't be easy on you and will push you to your limits and further beyond. He told her with a serious expression, but she didn't back down and nodded with her serious expression. They continued spending the next few hours together to catch up until it was nightfall when he offered her to stay for the night since it was really late. She accepted and decided to stay in his room while he would try to sleep on the couch. She wasn't going to let that happen and told him that he could sleep with her. Next morning, Naruto was in his family's training ground with his mother there wanting to see what her son was up to, and he told her that he was going to be learning to transform into a Super Saiyan at will and even perfect it to where there would be no side effects. Of course Naruto had placed seals, so no one could sense his energy output when he would transform. The seals were enhanced with chakra and ki, which made them much stronger. Ah! He shouted as he remembered what pushed him to transform and the feeling of wanting to protect everyone precious to him. His hair was changing between black and golden yellow, along with his eyes from black to teal, but it was fluctuating until he collapsed, breathing heavily from the energy he was pushing out. I'm almost there. I can feel it. I can't hold it for long, but it's getting there. He whispered to himself when Kushina came over to help him up since he was struggling to do so. You alright, Naru-chan? His mother was concerned for him, but he smiled and nodded, which eased her worries. I'm alright. Just need to get a handle on this transformation. I'm close to it. I can do this. He would have kept going when they felt someone's chakra appear at the estate's door. Someone's coming. I'll go see what they want. You go shower, mister. You've been at it for hours and you've been working hard. It's time for a break. Kushina said in a tone that dared him to ask questions, but he knew better than to argue with her, so he complied and did as told. While he did that, she went to the door to see who was here and saw an Anbu at the gates. Raising an eyebrow in curiosity, she met with him to see what he wanted. Mrs. Namikaze, the council has requested Naruto-sama and would like to speak with him. He said with her, sighing, but nodding in understanding. Hi, we'll be there. He's cleaning up, so we'll be there in half an hour or so. She said. He nodded and shunned away. 30 minutes later, Naruto had finished his shower and gotten a clean change of clothes and now was with his mother as they made their way to the council room, having an idea as to what it's about with regards to what happened yesterday when Naruto fought Cooler. They made it to the council meeting and now they were just not looking forward to seeing what they'd want, but he also wondered who called the meeting since Minato never mentioned a meeting would be happening today. They could only wait and see what was going on. They walked in and could see several people in the room, and with how the shinobi side was frowning along with Minato he could tell that he didn't call the meeting, but the civilian side did, which only made him narrow his eyes at what they could want. Naruto walked up in the middle and stood next to Minato as he stared at everyone impavely. While the shinobi side were curious about him, the civilian side were eyeing him, finding how strong he was. But when he saw the elders, he could sense their greed and they'd do anything to get him under their thumbs. I was told I was asked to come here, Hokage-sama. Naruto asked and got a raised eyebrow from his father and saw the glint in his eye and smiled internally and would let things play out to see what would happen. Yes. You were called here to answer some questions regarding what occurred yesterday and your capabilities since no one has seen them before. Minato said, getting a nod from his son. We also sensed a secondary source of chakra coming for you along with another energy source. Who are you? We've never seen you before, and the thing you fought yesterday, who was that and why did he seem to know you? Hiyashi questioned curiously with his Byakugan activated, but had to quickly shut it off from it, blinding him. Me. I guess with the changes I went under 5 years ago equals, but I can't be that different. I still have my whisker marks after all. He pointed at them as they all looked at him, then eyes widened as there was only one boy that had whiskers like that on him, but he's been gone for 5 years and now he looks like he's in his mid-20s. Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki. Itachi stuttered with eyes widened considerably at seeing his longtime rival and friend. It's good to see you again, Itachi, and yes, it's me. He grinned at him, who was too shocked to respond. What the hell happened to you for you to become like this? What's with the hair and eye color change and the tail pup? Sum asked, bewildered at his appearance. Not only that, but he looks much older than he should be, which begs the question, where have you been and how are you so much older than you should be? Shikaku asked with a serious expression. That's complicated to explain really, as it sounds unbelievable. As for the unknown energy that you saw is called ki, and no, not killer intent, but life energy. As for the alien that was here, that's also hard to explain without it sounding crazy, but as you know, he was from space, and the reason he was looking for me is because he wanted to get revenge for his family's honor when he heard his brother was killed by me and someone else. He told them, but could see curious and disbelieving looks from the civilians except for the elders, who were looking at him with interest. And those transformations you used? The first one had chakra, but the other one didn't. What was the first one you used? Danzo asked when his eyes widened, realizing where he felt it before, but it was more pure this time. You're a Jinchuriki, aren't you? He asked, which felt more like a statement as the others also put it together and looked at the Saiyan with looks of fear from the civilians and interest from the Shinobi Council. Are you Naruto? Inoichi asked, when he saw a slight smirk which told him and everyone else what they wanted to know. Which one, and why did it feel so pure? Homura asked, rather intrigued at them having a strong weapon in the village. He didn't say anything, but held up 2 fingers which they nodded at. As for the transformation, that's the chakra I use when we work together, and the chakra is different, not having a dangerous feel to it like others are. I basically had to fight her, which I won, and now I can use that form that those that were there saw. Naruto explained, getting shocked looks from everyone at him beating a Biju by himself, as only there were 2 people capable of doing such a thing. So you're a perfect Jinchuriki? Minato asked, already knowing, but had to ask to feign ignorance. Wait, so you're the one that showed up a month ago that was nearly killed? Was the brother you fought put you in that condition? Itachi asked and paled when Naruto nodded his head along with everyone else hearing that. What about that other transformation? You never said what that was. Danzo said, getting his nerves under control. It's called a Super Saiyan, and no, not everyone can gain that form, as only Saiyans can unlock it. This is my second time bringing out that form. He said to the Warhawk, who was getting ideas in his head and would make this boy the ultimate weapon if he could control him. He'd have to use his Sharingan, since nothing else would be able to do such a thing, but what he didn't know was that he would be very disappointed when he tried. And why can't anyone use that form? A random civilian asked. You have to be what is called a Saiyan. A race similar to humans, but different. So it would be impossible to become one. Naruto told them, who nodded. Are you saying you're a Saiyan and not human anymore? Koharu asked, narrowing his eyes, but softened when he shook his head negatively. I'm half Saiyan and half human. When the change occurred, I wasn't made completely Saiyan, letting me still be able to use chakra. He said. Danzo was smirking at this information, and from what his root operative told him, no one in the world could match the boy. Now we have the strongest shinobi in the world, and we can use him to destroy the other nations and be the village at the top. I suggest we use him to our advantage. Danzo immediately stated, with the civilian council and elders nodding in agreement, but the shinobi side and his parents were glaring at the Warhawk for the suggestion. No, I won't do such a thing. I'm not a tool for you to use whenever you want. I'm my own person and you won't tell me what to do. There's nothing you can do to change my mind. He said with finality in his voice, but saw the smirk on Danzo's face, but didn't say anything. He's right. I won't force my son to do such a thing when we're finally getting along with the other villages and coming to peace. It would ruin everything that we've fought for to get to this point. Minato said, but Danzo wasn't bothered in the least as he kept his gaze on Naruto, who felt a slight sting in his head and unconsciously activated his Rinne Sharingan and cancelled out the attack on his mind along with Matabi helping him. Okay. What the hell was that? Naruto asked with a scowl on his face, knowing what technique was just used on him, having used at times himself, as everyone except for Minato and Kushina were surprised to see his eyes change. Naruto, Kushina asked, wondering what's got him so upset. Someone just tried using a genjutsu to control me, and there's only one that is capable of such a thing. He sneered as he looked around. Naruto-kun, it was the man with a bandaged eye. I sensed his chakra spike right when the genjutsu was used and no one else's changed. Matabi told him, who narrowed his eyes at the Warhawk. Danzo Shimura, how dare you try to control me? He sneered as he flared his power, and the ki made everyone feel uneasy. Naruto, stop. You're making it hard for people to breathe. Minato called out to his son, who took a breath and lowered his killer intent, but the glare never went away. Now why do you believe Danzo tried to do something? That's a huge accusation to make. Minato said with a serious expression. Because of a certain tailed beast who sensed his chakra spike right when the genjutsu was used. It was easy to notice since no one else's changed. Hiashi, I need you to use your Byakugan and check him for any Sharingans. Naruto said as Hiashi did as requested, and he was shocked at what he saw. Oh god. That's horrible. Danzo, how dare you? Hiashi shouted, losing his normal calm demeanor. What did you see, Hiashi? Kushina asked when the next second they all saw Naruto with his ki blade out and Danzo's arm on the ground, and he was clutching his eye while glaring at Naruto. This is the cause of it. Naruto said as he tossed the arm to Minato, and with his other hand he showed everyone the Sharingan, which shocked everyone including the other elders that was in his eye before he crushed it. Minato took the arm and began unraveling it, and what he and everyone else saw was disturbing and horrifying to see. It was a pale white arm and had several Sharingans in them. Danzo, what's the meaning of this? You desecrated the graves of the Uchiha. Minato shouted as Naruto still held the man down with his arm as he aimed his ki blade at his neck. I did it for the good of Konoha, to make it stronger. I did this for the village. Danzo commented through gritted teeth at losing the majority of his power. Root. He called out as a group of Anbu showed up with Nei masks on and started attacking Naruto. Naruto made quick work of them as he was too fast, as no one could keep up with him. Danzo was seen leaving the chamber when Naruto appeared in front of him, blocking the exit as he held a ki orb in front of his face with an emotionless expression. That's far enough, traitor, he said, when Danzo scowled at him. Damn you, boy, you ruined everything. This wasn't supposed to happen, especially with what was planned for you. If you hadn't disappeared, you were supposed to come to me and become the weapon to defend me. If you hadn't disappeared and that energy hadn't saved your parents, you'd be mine, and your bitch of parents would be my puppets too. Danzo roared in anger at having his plans ruined. So that perverted bastard was working with you. I'm glad he's dead and you never talk poorly of my parents like that. He yelled as he felt himself transform into Super Saiyan unconsciously. I sentence you to death. He shouted as he shot the ki ball at him and caused an explosion, killing him instantly. Naruto appeared back in the council room as the root Anbu were dead, and he spread his senses out to see if there were more, and lo and behold, there were hundreds of them below the village. Dad, I sense hundreds of chakra signatures below Konoha. It seems Danzo still had his own private army. He told him, who nodded with a growl, having remembered how Hiruzen had told Danzo to dismantle Root, but apparently it was ignored. Let's go take care of it. We'll need Anbu and Jonin to deal with this. Can you lead the way, son? Minato asked, who nodded, and he turned towards the council. With everything we've learned, this meeting is adjourned. He told them, who nodded, and they all left, and the Shinobi Council went with Minato, Kushina, and Naruto to end Root once and for all. For the next couple hours was spent in eliminating Root and seeing if there were any kids that could be saved still before they were too far gone and brainwashed. They had also found several folders with documents that detailed all of his dealings, which made them sick, but one thing pissed him and his parents off the most was how Danzo had alerted a member of Akatsuki of where she'd be giving birth and how he gave Iwa, Kumo, and Kiri the seals to deactivate the whirlpool defenses. This man was the single reason his clan went near extinction and for the Kyuubi attack. Also, he could become Hokage and make it in his image. After everything was done, they spent the rest of the day comforting his mother, who had learned so much and would need them to comfort her. 2 weeks later. 2 weeks went by rather quickly for Naruto. Not a lot was happening except for him training to where he could transform into Super Saiyan at will, and after a week of trying he had managed to do it finally. Now he had to really learn to control it and then to master the state. That wasn't the only thing he did though, as he kept training the twins in the Kyuubi's chakra and had learned that they could now go into the first cloak pretty easily and could go up to 3 tails, which was their limit, which was good at their age. He also learned that the Kyuubi had told them their name and had even opened their cages to allow them freedom, which made him happy to hear, along with Matabi. This gave them the opportunity to go deeper into the mindscape that all Jinchuriki can get into along with the Biju, and when they met Matabi, he laughed at seeing their expressions of awe and how adorable she looked. She instantly liked them, and after some time getting to know them she told them her name as a sign of trust. Also learned that the Kyuubi's name was Kurumi, which he thanked her for telling him her name and wouldn't ruin her trust. He spent lots of time with Makoto, having been gone for years, and they were getting back to the swing of things. She was having a hard time believing that this was the same kid that she trained and was now a man. And he was now only about 10 years younger than her now. She would need to think about what she's feeling and figure them out. He had also gotten to know Fasha once she woke up. Like Jine, she didn't remember much and felt bad for what she went through. He learned that she was teammates with Jine at one point, and he was glad there would be someone she would know once they got back to Earth. She loved to fight, so they sparred a lot and was amazed that he could transform into a Super Saiyan. They trained often when he wasn't training his sisters. She also got to know the others and became fast friends with Anko and Hana, much to his horror. Knowing the stories they'd share with her made him nervous, as he found out that Fasha liked to tease him whenever she could. She also got to know his family and enjoyed their company and found their shinobi life to be intriguing, being similar to her old work under Frieza, only on a smaller scale. Right now Naruto was in the estate with everyone as they were relaxing after a long day. Anko and Hana were there too. That was another thing that happened. After getting reacquainted with Sum, he told her that he'd be leaving in the next month when he was summoned by his friends, and that Hana wanted to go with him. After some threats and promises that he made to her, she would allow her to go on the condition that they'd visit when they could, which he promised they'd visit. This is nice. This is the first time in a while where we've all just relaxed together. No work, no training, just hanging out with friends and family. Naruto smiled when everyone nodded. I could get used to this. You do have a point, but with Minato working a lot as Hokage and the girls with their team, it makes it hard to find times like this. Kushina said with a content smile on her face. How are you two handling being with Naru-chan and sharing him? Mustn't be easy, right? Narumi asked with a smirk, seeing her brother grumble something that she couldn't hear, but she didn't care. She enjoyed teasing her brother when she could. Naruto all of a sudden froze, feeling something as if he was being pulled when he started to glow, and he fought it when he heard in his head that he was being wished back to Earth. I can't go back yet. It's not time, he told the dragon mentally, who nodded and the light disappeared from him. What was that? Kasumi asked with a confused expression, along with everyone of the same mind. That would be the Namekian dragon trying to wish me back to Earth, but I said I can't go back yet, and the feeling along with the light disappeared right after. This news made everyone except for Anko and Hana grow sad since they thought they had more time. He then saw his twin sisters jump at him with hugs, not wanting him to go. Kushina wasn't ready to let her son go either since she just got him back a month and a half ago. Minato however understood, but smiled knowing he would have more time though with his son. Everyone's thoughts were cut off when they heard a very familiar voice that made Naruto's eyes go wide and had silent tears. Caulifla, is that you? He asked in a quiet voice when the others were looking at him in confusion. Naruto Uzumaki, I heard you told the dragon to not bring you back yet. What the hell, bastard? You need to get your sorry over here now, you hear me? She shouted when another voice spoke up. Naruto, it's so good to hear your voice again. We all thought you were dead until the dragon told us you were alive. You as well, Kale. I'm so sorry for what happened to you three girls. It shouldn't have ever happened and I'm sorry for failing to protect you. He said as tears were leaking down his cheeks. What's going on? Kushina asked, confused, but recognized the name Kale and Caulifla from what Naruto told her about them. Who's talking and why can't we see them? Kasumi asked, just as confused as everyone except for Naruto, Anko, and Hana. Naruto, it wasn't your fault, you know. We wanted to protect you for a change instead of you doing that always. Kale said as she smiled at her boyfriend even if he couldn't see it. But you need to get your back to earth or so help me, I'll find wherever you're at and kick your. Caulifla chimed in. Is that Naruto? Naruto Uzumaki. Like Caulifla said, get your back to earth as I want you here since you did this to us. Bulma said, confusing everyone in the Namikaze estates except for Kushina who had an idea and was starting to grin widely, hoping it was true. What do you mean? It's not like I don't want to go back, I just thought I had more time and could finish training my sisters for now. Naruto told them. Wait, you're on your home planet. Caulifla shouted in excitement. Yeah, but anyway, what do you mean what I did to you? He wondered, trying to think of what she meant. You got us pregnant, so get back to Earth and take responsibility. She shouted, making him shrink back at the tone until he stiffened when he heard what she said. What did you say? He asked, hoping what he heard wasn't his imagination or a lie. We're pregnant, Naruto, and it's yours. Please come back. Kale said, nearly in tears. Oh, my son became a man, huh? Congrats, Naruto. Minato shouted with a huge grin on his face, one that Naruto returned of his own. Oh, I'm going to have grandbabies. Kushina yelled in excitement at the thought of having grandbabies to spoil, but she looked at her son. You better go back and be there for your wives for your kid's birth or else Sochi. She threatened, making him nod frantically when he heard laughing. Who was that? Whoever it was, I like her. Bulma and Caulifla laughed. That would be my mother, Kushina. Go ahead and tell the dragon to send me back to Earth along with a few others that are coming with me. Anko, Hana, and a fellow Saiyan named Fasha. He told them and could tell they were surprised to hear there was another Saiyan even if he couldn't see them. Will do, Naruto. We can't wait to see you again and soon. We hope to meet your family too. Kale said with the connection ending. Naruto looked at his family and they had smiles on their faces, but he made the mistake of looking at his mother and sisters who had tears in their eyes knowing their son, brother and his friends were about to leave for who knows how long. He walked up to them and pulled them in a hug and they latched onto him, not wanting to let him go. I'll be back. I'll be back in a year's time as me and Dad have been discussing something that would be an opportunity. I'd also like to be back in time for the Chunin exams this time around. He said with a grin that his sisters seemed to have as well, making him chuckle. I'll tell you more about it though, when it's time, so don't worry about not seeing me. It'll be 6 months for you, but a year for me, so it won't be too long of a wait. Okay. He explained to them, who slowly nodded into his chest. Naruto smiled at his father and shook hands with him. It was great having you back, son, and I look forward to meeting your girls, and you should bring them with you when you visit next time. He told his son, who nodded, knowing they'd want to visit Konoha. Ready, Anko, Fasha, and Hana? He asked the three women, who nodded and were rather excited to see Earth and his friends, but were also nervous knowing things would be very different for them. Sure, Naru-kun. Hana grinned at her boyfriend. They didn't have to wait long, as he was again covered in a white light along with the girls as they disappeared from view. The four appeared and looked around in the familiar place, well to Naruto anyway, of Capsule Corporations, recognizing it anywhere. He didn't have a chance to do anything when four blurs slammed into him, knocking him over. It was Bulma, Jine, Caulifla, and Kale who was on top of him, and they had grins, smiles on their faces with tears in their eyes, except for Caulifla, who was trying to fight it. I missed you girls so much. He whispered to them, who nodded in his chest when they slowly got off him, as everyone saw the three newcomers. They were looking at everyone with nervous expressions except for Fasha, who saw her old friend Jine, and he could see the excitement in their eyes and the eagerness to fight each other too, having been years since they last saw each other. He looked at everyone that was present and could see his further parents-in-law, Gohan, Chi-Chi, Piccolo, and even Vegeta was there, who was with a blonde woman that had brown eyes. He recognized her from what Bulma told him about her. This must have been her sister Tights, and he could see they were pretty close. Hey Veggie. Glad to see you're back in the land of the living. He waved at the prince, who nodded back with a smirk on his face. Glad to see you're still alive. I could use a great sparring partner like you. That, and I want to know how you became a Super Saiyan. He said in a serious tone that made Naruto nod in understanding, knowing how he must feel when others can do it, but he can't. He was glad to be back on Earth and couldn't wait for what would happen next in his life with his girls and friends. It's been 4 months since Naruto came back with Anko, Hana, and Fasha, and things were going rather well, mostly that is. He told them about his time spent on Elam and the reunion with his family and friends. And how he fought Frieza's brother Cooler and killed him after going Super Saiyan for the second time. To say everyone was shocked that he turned Super Saiyan again, and even told how he could go into it at will now. As soon as Naruto came back, he was spending as much time as he could with Bulma, Caulifla, and would dote on them to make sure they were taken care of and were comfortable so nothing would happen to them or the babies. Though the girls were touched by his doting, good luck getting Caulifla to admit it, but were getting annoyed with him making sure they didn't do anything strenuous. It wasn't until they sat him down and had a talk with him in Bulma and Kale's case, but with Caulifla she was hitting him on the head, much to everyone's amusement. After that he would still watch over them, but to a lesser degree, and tried not to smother them as much. There was also the matter with Matabi. Ever since he came back to Earth, she's been acting different and strange. She's been showing something different other than sibling affection, and even showed him her human form, which he didn't know she had. Her human form was beautiful to say the least. She was a beautiful young woman with a voluptuous figure, long light blue hair with split bangs, and green-yellow eyes with cat-like pupils. Her attire consists of a black kimono, a yellow obi, a set of golden beads, and an ornately detailed headband. The kimono features a red interior and it is open at her shoulders, giving view to her large, which were F-cup sized. He was at first hurt that she never told him about it, but got over it quickly, as she must have had her reasons, and when she explained that she didn't use it often, which made sense to him. She would kiss his cheek often and flirt with him. He knew she was flirty and such, but it felt more than that for him. He would need to talk to his girls about it. He had also been working on getting her out of the seal. He was about done with the project too. He hasn't told her or anyone about it, wanting to surprise her and all. Another thing that happened was 2 months ago he and Bulma, Kale and Caulifla got married, and when they were asked which names they wanted to take, either Namikaze or Uzumaki, Kale wanted to take the Namikaze name and the other two took the Uzumaki name, so now they were Bulma Briefs Uzumaki, Kale Namikaze, and Caulifla Uzumaki, and they couldn't be happier. Anko, Hana, and Fasha had adjusted well to Earth along with Jin. From what he heard, had found out that her son was Goku, which he had a feeling was the case after she told him about her husband and what he looked like was too much to be a coincidence. He along with Fasha and Jin would spar often, and they wanted to know if he could train them too and wanted to see if he could turn Super Saiyan, and were not disappointed when he showed them the transformation. He explained the reason he was able to transform, how the power came to him when it was needed until he could do it at will. Naruto had started training to master the transformation to where he can stay in the form for as long as he wants. It's been a month since he started doing that, and he realized how much it would drain him quickly, but he would keep going as it would raise it and would get this down. He had a feeling there was more than just Super Saiyan, as if this was the legendary Super Saiyan then it wasn't much, so he assumed there was more than just the transformation. First though, he had to get Fasha, Jin, Caulifla, and Kale to transform too. He wouldn't leave his fellow Saiyans behind like that, but would have to wait on Kale and Caulifla since they're pregnant. If they wouldn't want his help, then he would let them be. Vegeta had left Earth in one of the Gravity SS that they took to planet Namek to look for Goku and to finish off Frieza's soldiers that he came across, and that was 3 months ago. Naruto was in the gravity chambers at 150 times Earth's gravity with Fasha and Jin sparring with Naruto. "Come on, this isn't all you got, is it?" he taunted with a smirk on his face. "Let's show this guy who he's dealing with, Jin." Fasha told her teammate, who nodded as they charged up to full power and charged at him with increased through punches, but he caught them with one hand each, before they threw kicks, but he blocked it by crossing his arms and was sent skidding back. Jin followed after him as they fought, sending punches and kicks. He was caught off guard when she grabbed his shirt and jumped over him and wasn't prepared for when he saw Fasha preparing a ki blast, but didn't have time to dwell on it when she fired. Full power energy wave. He would have countered with something, but he was kicked in the back by Jin and he went straight into the blast that created an explosion blocking their view. When it settled down, it showed he had his arms crossed and a smirk on his face. "That was a close one. Any later and that would have gotten me pretty good, but I'm not done yet," he shouted back at the two. "Let's go shut him up, Fasha. He's got quite the mouth on him," Jin said as she nodded, and they charged at him and threw punches that he caught with ease. They were both fighting him head on together, throwing different punches and kicks, but were surprised how he was keeping him and reacting with his own attacks. He didn't power up that much, it must have been something else. "Now Jin," Fasha shouted as they pushed him back with 2 punches that sent him skidding back further in the gravity chamber and charged their attacks at him. Fasha's was blue and Jin's was pink. Full power energy wave. Mother Nature. They sent out their attacks hoping to finish this fight, but Naruto was able to see them coming and brought his arms up and gave a shout as a protective barrier appeared around him. His power rose and rose quickly until he changed into a Super Saiyan, which made it explode, causing their view to be blocked. When the smoke disappeared, they could see that Naruto had a serious expression on his face, but that wasn't all that changed. He was now in his Super Saiyan form and didn't look like he took any damage either from what they could tell. "That was impressive, you two. You make quite the team to force me to transform like this, but now it's over," he shouted as he disappeared. The next thing they knew was pain as they felt their stomachs take hits and forced them to their knees, and they weren't moving, indicating it was over. Naruto went back to normal and had a small smile on his face. "You two really are something. You're just like Kale and Caulifla, able to work together perfectly that it's scary to think about." He smiled, but it changed to horror when he saw their angry looks being directed at him. "All that work and you one-shot us in your Super Saiyan form. I know you mean well, but I feel like we aren't getting any stronger." Jin frowned, not wanting to complain to her friend, but it's how she and Fasha felt. His smile lessened when he heard this. "It may not seem like it, but you really have. You've already forced me to go full power without transforming, so that's amazing. It wouldn't be long until you're able to transform and even usurp me. I feel like you and the other girls will do it. He grinned at the two who had small pink hues on their cheeks from the praise, but Fasha had a smirk on her face to cover it up and Jine had a smile on her face. When will you be teaching us how to transform then? Fasha asked, excited to learn the legendary form. I'd say very soon actually, and not just you two, but Kale and Caulifla, but they'll have to wait until after they give birth, otherwise the stress could hurt the babies. He told the two who couldn't help but smirk in excitement. They got cleaned up and picked out new clothes that they had gotten when Bulma took them shopping. Fasha was now wearing a white tank top with a black jacket over it with blue leggings that showed off her large and long legs. Jine had a pink tank top with black short shorts that didn't leave much to the imagination for him to her white S in her legs. He'd noticed how they would do things that would make any guy go crazy and he would wonder why. He'd need to talk to Caulifla, Kale, and Bulma to see if they had something to do with it. Bulma was on the balcony having some tea talking with Kale, Anko, Hannah, Yamcha, Krillin, and Caulifla when they came out to join them. So Bulma, how are you feeling nowadays? Hannah gestured to the pregnancy. I'm fine, but I've been getting cravings for a while, but at least I'm not the one girls. She smirked seeing them growl and pout at her teasing, but changed to smirks. And we have our lovely husband to help with these things, right? Caulifla cheekily asked, grinning from ear to ear, making him pout with the others chuckling. You're lucky I love you. He grumbled, but smiled when he felt Kale kiss his cheek. Bulma said you've been training Fasha and Jine Naruto, how's that been going? Krillin asked his friend who nodded. It's been going pretty good, I'd say. They're getting close to being ready to become Super Saiyans. He told the bald monk who was shocked to hear that others could do it. Really? How do you plan to do that? He asked, his jaw on the ground at hearing this news. Yep. It's only a matter of time and how. It's a secret. I want to train with Kale and Caulifla, but I'd rather not risk the babies. He answered when they turned to see the pouts on their faces and the smug grins on Fasha's and Jine's faces, meaning they must have said something to them. What about me and Hannah Whiskers? We haven't trained as much lately. Don't you want us to be stronger? Anko asked with tears in the corner of her eyes, making him look down, but when he looked up she smirked. Hee. Works every time. It's fine, Whiskers, but we would like to train again sometime soon. She said, nodding at her. Speaking of which, how far along are they now? Yamcha asked. Bulma is at 8 months along with Kale and Caulifla both are 7 months. It's getting dangerous for them to be doing much, but you know how stubborn they can be. He mumbled with the guys laughing at his predicament knowing how right he is. It was at that time, they all heard something that sounded like a falling S. They looked up and could see an object coming down and it was coming in fast. It was when it landed did they get a good look at it. It was the same space S that they took to Namek. I'm back, bitches. They heard a familiar voice and Naruto smirked in amusement at the prince's entrance as he saw said prince walk down the ramp from the S as Yamcha met him and got in a stance. Hey, you got a lot of nerve coming back here. He said, trying to look intimidating. Oh, need a valet, I'm not tipping. Vegeta said non-caringly, making Naruto and the others laugh. Don't you remember who I am? We fought when you landed on Earth. Yamcha exclaimed. No, I fought Kakarot. Nappa fought everyone else, except for that one guy who got killed by a Saibaman. He said, before he looked at Yamcha again and started chuckling, which turned into hysterical laughing. Oh yeah, I dare you to come over here and laugh at me. He tried to act tough. Ha, 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 he said, landing in front of him with a blank look. Yeah, see now we can laugh together. Yamcha said, scared of the prince. Vegeta was about to say something when a yellow blur knocked him over who looked a mix of anger and joy on her face. Hey tights. He groaned from the hit. Hey, it was a good hit. Don't judge. You hole. You left me alone and now it's time to pay me back as I have something to tell you too. Tights said, making Naruto snicker when he saw the questioning look on his face. He groaned knowing he would be in trouble for just leaving like he did, but now was wondering what she had to tell him. What is it? He asked her. Before she could tell him, she sniffed him and got up while pinching her nose. You need a shower. You reek, she said with disgust. Fine. Tights and Tights' sister, take me to the shower. He ordered smugly, but got a whack in the head. No ordering your sister-in-law like that. Remember what happened last time you tried that with me? She smirked when his face went completely pale at the memory. Yes ma'am. Sorry ma'am, Vegeta said, still paling. Ha, he laughed, but hunched over when Bulma elbowed him in the stomach. Don't go laughing at him. You're the same way you know. She smirked when he went quiet knowing she was right. They continued talking for a bit when Vegeta came out, which didn't take long. Vegeta, what the hell are you wearing? He laughed seeing the prince wearing a pink shirt, having not expected him to wear one. It was the only shirt that Tights had for me for now till she can take me shopping. He grumbled and got looks of pity from Naruto knowing all too well how much torture that can be. Anyway, now that you're back, how was space? He asked, wanting to hear about it. It was great. Got to kill Frieza's weakling soldiers for one, which was fun, but I never found Kakarot anywhere. He told him, who nodded. That sounds like fun. I almost wish I would have gone, but I have a feeling I wouldn't have lived long if I had. He said, making Vegeta smirk knowing what he meant. Bah, letting your women control you like that and you call yourself a Saiyan. He said, when he felt killer intent on him along with Naruto and they turned to see their women glaring at them, which made them shrink in their seats with them nodding and going back to talking like nothing happened. I think it's safe to say that they do have a say in our lives. Naruto said, when he got an idea. Wanna spar? He asked, getting a smirk from the prince who nodded, but before they could move they along with everyone except for Bulma and Tights felt familiar energy heading towards the planet. I thought you guys killed him. How's he still alive? Krillin stammered out in fear of the person who had killed him before. Damn, I thought he did too. I knew I should have done it, but Goku said he'd handle it. Naruto shouted unconsciously going Super Saiyan. Naruto stop. Caulifla shouted, making him take deep breaths and powered back down. We should go check it out before he has a chance to cause any harm to any nearby cities. Naruto said. It's my turn to kill he bastard since the clown couldn't do it and you killed Cooler already. Vegeta said with Naruto agreeing knowing that Vegeta deserved it more than anyone else having served under him the longest and wanted payback. You'll need these just in case. Bulma said, handing him a small bag of senzu beans. He kissed her cheek and did the same with Caulifla and Kale since they knew they couldn't go with being 7 months along and all. I'll call Gohan to let him know, but I'm sure that he and Piccolo sensed it as well, so we'll be seeing them too. Krillin said as he took off along with everyone else that would go. Naruto, Vegeta, Fasha, and Jin made it to where they could sense Frieza would land, and when they got there they could see Gohan, Krillin, Piccolo, Yamcha, Tien, and Chaozu. I'm guessing that everyone else felt the energy and checked it out. Naruto asked with everyone nodding. Hey Naruto-sensei. Gohan greeted with a grin that made him chuckle and ruffle his hair that made him pout. It's good to see you, kid. You've grown quite a bit since we last saw you. I can tell you've gotten much stronger since then too. He said, making him grin at the praise before he became serious. It's Frieza, isn't it? He asked hoping he was wrong, but he shook his head fearing the worst. It'll be fine, kid. I can take him on, but I can tell there's another power level that's even stronger than him. Almost as strong as Cooler actually. He said, surprising everyone except Vegeta who had an idea of who it was. That's probably his dad. Vegeta said. He has a father. Yamcha asked. Of course he does. Everyone has a dad, except me. Piccolo commented. Ha, your dad's dead. Vegeta exclaimed. So is yours. Piccolo retorted. Ha, was all he said. Let's do this. We need a plan though. Any ideas? Naruto asked when Piccolo spoke up. Since we have the numbers along with a Super Saiyan, we can you fight Frieza and his father while the rest of us take on the soldiers since you're the strongest here. He suggested, getting nods from everyone except Naruto and Vegeta, who looked at each other and nodded. Vegeta can take on Frieza while I take on his father. He's gotten much stronger, so I think he can keep him busy. Let's go. He shouted as they were about to take off when they saw a ki blast hit the S, forcing them to land sooner. What was that? Krillin asked. Not sure, but whoever it was, we should go help them, or at least watch from a distance in case they need help. Jin said, not wanting any innocent people to get hurt. We won't know until we get there, but you're right. It would be wise to observe for now. Piccolo said, with everyone agreeing. They all lowered their power levels to 0 where they could observe without being caught. When they got close enough, they could see 3 people there. 2 of them had black hair, being male and female, with the female having her hair in a ponytail and the other had long red hair. Well, they looked to be having fun. Naruto chuckled at how the 3 strangers were mowing through Frieza's underlings like they were nothing. They're true warriors with what they're doing to them. I approve of their actions. Vegeta nodded with a smug grin. I don't know. They scream crazy to me. Yamcha commented. For some reason that bothers me and I don't know why. He said with a confused expression. Back with the trio. They just finished mowing down the soldiers as it was just down to Frieza and his father King Cold, but they did see a green-skinned woman with short white hair who was hiding from them. Well, now that the trash is taken care of, we can deal with the mechanical dildo. The red-headed woman said with a smirk as the other 2 chuckled. Naruto heard this and nearly lost it, trying not to laugh out loud and not to give their position away, while everyone else except Piccolo, who was smirking having heard it too, was wondering what he's laughing about. Well, she certainly has some spirit, don't you think so, son? Cold asked amusedly. She certainly does, but I'm about to spill her guts all over the floor for her disrespect to her superior. We'll see about that, Frieza. I have to say, for someone who's supposedly the emperor of the universe, your power level isn't very impressive. The male black-haired kid said, further angering him. Grr. He growled at the insults he was receiving, but calmed himself before he started chuckling. Very amusing, brats. I can see that you're all bark and no bite. Now, why don't you 3 leave us alone while we wait for the Super Saiyan? He dismissed the trio, not concerned about them. Waiting for Goku, huh? That's funny because so are we, but what makes you think he's the only Super Saiyan? The black-haired female asked with a smirk still on her face. Are you referring to the other monkey? Please, he's nothing compared to him and probably can't do it again if he wanted to. Again Frieza dismissed him and Naruto, who was about ready to prove how wrong he was, but a hand on his shoulder stopped him from doing anything. Nah, not Goku. You're looking at M, she said. What? Frieza yelled in disbelief for a moment, before he started chuckling, which turned into laughter. Ah, that was funny. He laughed along with his father when the 3 still had their smirks on their faces when they slowly started channeling their ki, with the pebbles around them slowly rising, which stopped their laughing immediately. What the? Frieza questioned the familiar feeling. What are they? Cold asked in surprise as well. Ah, they shouted as blinding light forced everyone except for Naruto, who knew what was happening, as it was similar to him when he did this and he was in shock at what he was about to see. When the light died down, everyone could see the 3 teens now were glowing yellow like Naruto did, with their hair changed into the same color with their eyes teal like his too. They were now Super Saiyans, which shouldn't be possible since no one had ever seen them before, especially Vegeta, who was looking jealous at seeing more Super Saiyans when he's not one yet. No, their eyes. They're the same as He couldn't finish his sentence, having a flashback of the very two who caused him so much trouble and pain. Well, now this should be interesting. So this is a Super Saiyan, huh? Cold was intrigued with the supposed legend, and seeing it being true interested him. Now who's first? Mito grinned with a sadistic feeling to her as she pulled out her sword and pointed it at Cold while the other two were grinning at Frieza. The redhead took off instantly with her sword raised and went down for a swing, but he dodged to the left hoping to gain distance, but some chains were suddenly wrapped around him, cutting off his ki, making him growl in frustration. He didn't get to do anything else as she was in front of him and shot him point blank with a ki blast, incinerating his head. She smiled sadistically as she sheathed her sword, powered down, and skipped over to where her siblings were. The other two were practically playing pinball with the former tyrant, finding him to be easy to deal with. The girl had a ki blade out and was grinning at Frieza, who was missing an arm now, and the male was shaking his head at her sadistic side. He brought his hand out and blasted him with a giant ki ball that was similar to Kale's. The girl moved out of the way just in time for the blast to completely overtake the tyrant, leaving nothing but ashes left. That takes care of that. How'd your fight go, Red? The guy asked his sister, who gave him a toothy grin. Easy. He was nothing. We've faced worse against the androids back home. She replied with a shrug. But isn't that? She asked, pointing towards a green-skinned woman who was shaking at what she had witnessed. Yeah, that's her all right. We should hurry and bring her along to meet everyone since she'll be here for a while. Mia smirked, knowing who this was exactly, as they walked to the woman who was still shaking. Please don't kill me. I was only with them as it was the only place I could find work at. She begged as she was crying at this point. We won't hurt you. Why don't you come with us? We got some explaining to do with everyone that's watching, and you don't seem like a bad person. Red said, trying not to hug her. Back over with the others, they were staring wide-eyed at the group of three, especially Naruto, when he saw the redhead use a jutsu that shouldn't be possible since there was only one person who could use those chains, and that was his mother. And she wasn't a Saiyan, so that begged the question, who was she and how did she know that technique? Does anyone care to explain what just happened? And I don't mean them getting rid of Frieza and his father, but the fact that they're Super Saiyans and used familiar attacks from Kale and Chakra. Does anyone else agree, or is it just me? Naruto asked out loud, but no one responded as everyone was still in shock. Hey Red, I think you blew your cover. What were you thinking of using those chains? The guy whispered harshly, knowing that they were supposed to be undercover. She froze at the question and stared at the group, or more specifically Naruto, who was looking at her specifically before she paled at what she did. Oops, she said sheepishly, grinning nervously. Great. Well, we still have what we need to do, but let's just go. I want to see him again after so long. The black-haired girl said longingly while looking at the group. I know what you mean, sis, but damn, Sensei was short. The guy said. For now, let's just call them over and get this over with. She told her siblings, who nodded at her. Hey guys, if you want to see Goku, follow us. We know where he'll be landing in 3 hours from now. The redhead called out to them, snapping them out of their thoughts. Well, I don't know about you all, but I'm going with them. He said. You're just going to trust them, just like that? Tien asked, suspiciously. They killed Frieza and his father when they could have just let us handle it instead. That, and they make me curious, especially the one with red hair. She has the same hair as my mother, meaning she must be an Uzumaki, and I tend to find out. He explained with a serious expression. I don't know, Krillin said, unsure. We also brought snacks. The redhead shouted. Well, let's go then, Krillin said, changing his mind instantly as they flew off after them. It didn't take them long to get there, but while they were following the three, Naruto, Fasha, and Jin noticed they would glance at Naruto from time to time for some reason, but didn't think on it for now as they'd get their answers for now. Naruto-kun, Matabi said, getting his attention. Yeah, what's wrong? He asked, noticing her tone was confused or worried. I just noticed something about those other two with that girl with red hair. They have chakra in them. She said, surprising him. He would really need to look into this and talk to them. I see. Anything else to note? He wanted to know what else there was about them that could help identify them. She stretched out her senses to double check for anything else, but didn't get anything to help. Sorry Naruto-kun, I got nothing else, but whoever they are do not have any bad intentions with you, and the same goes with the green-skinned woman. She's terrified by what I can sense and wasn't there with Frieza by choice. She said, getting a subtle nod from him as the link ended. They landed and the black-haired girl pulled out a capsule which put everyone except Naruto on guard, who could tell it wasn't anything bad. What was inside the capsule was a refrigerator which seemed to be filled with drinks. Goku won't be landing for 3 hours, so have a drink of 2. The guy told them, who nodded. But don't touch the sake in there, that's mine. The black-haired girl yelled to let everyone know as they nodded, but Naruto had a feeling he should take it away from her for some reason. Now that's done, I have some questions that need answers to now. Vegeta demanded, crossing his arms over his chest as he glared at the trio. Sorry, we can't say, yet, at least until Goku gets here. Things will be explained then. He told Vegeta. HMPF, was all he said as he took a beer for himself and sat down on a rock. What about you? You're with Frieza, aren't you? He questioned the woman, who was rapidly shaking her head, not wanting to anger him or anyone else for that matter. No, I only worked for them since I had nowhere else to go. I'm just glad I wasn't killed with them and don't want to cause any problems here. She said as looked to see Naruto smiling at her, which made her blush a little at his smile. It's fine. I don't sense any evil intentions from you. What's your name? He asked her. Chilai. It's Chilai, and you are? She asked. Naruto Uzumaki, and we'll make your stay here a good one and hope you come to love it here. He grinned at her as she nodded, and she went to go sit down and think about her new life here on Earth. Naruto walked up to the three, who stiffened a little with his approach, but Naruto didn't notice until he was a foot away from them. He stared at them for a minute before he gave a small smile and put his hand out. Thanks for taking care of Frieza back there. Looked like you guys were taking it easy on him though. He told the three, who nodded as they each shook his hand. It was way too easy and so boring. I mean, I barely had to try at all. The redhead whined, making him chuckle. I bet. I know you said you'd explain everything, but I know you all can use chakra. He revealed, making their eyes go wide. They didn't realize that he'd figure it out. Aside from the redhead, they didn't use chakra in the fight to hide it. How? The black-haired girl asked. Who do you think? Matabi notified me, of course. He grinned, seeing their eyes twitch at forgetting that she would be able to tell. Oh right, she muttered as she slapped her forehead. I do have one question though for you, Red. He said, getting her attention. Are you an Uzumaki? Because only they can use chakra chains, have red hair, and only one other person has ever been known to use them, and that was my mother, so tell me, how are you related to us? He questioned more seriously, making her avoid eye contact with him and gulp from the stare. Well, I can't say, she questioned, unsure. And you're a Saiyan who can use chakra like me, but there should only be me who's capable of using both types of energies, so what's the connection? He asked again, but this time the guy came to the rescue. Before we answer, are any of these women pregnant? Bulma, Caulifla, and Kale? He asked, getting a raised eyebrow, but he nodded, answering his question, and he was instantly tackled by the two females in a hug while the guy shook his head, but had a wide smile on his face, surprising everyone at the girl's actions. He didn't get to ask as he noticed the girls had tears in their eyes. Daddy. The redhead muttered in his chest, but still heard it and his eyes widened at what he heard. What did you say? He asked, wanting to make sure he heard right and wasn't going crazy. You're our daddy, the black-haired girl said, still hugging him. Wait, how? He asked, but his eyes widened at the realization. You have to be from the future if you're my kids. It makes sense now. You can have both energies and have red hair like my mother, and you have your mother's hair too. I can see the resemblances now. He gave a smile at his kids as they all stood up. Sorry, Dad, but we had to make sure, or else there could have been a chance we wouldn't exist. The guy said. I see. I take it you're Mito, mine and Bulma's daughter. You must be Mia, mine and Kale's daughter, and lastly Renzo, mine and Khalifa's son, named after her brother. He stated, getting nods from them as everyone heard what he said, surprising them. They're your kids. No way. Yamcha shouted. How's that possible? They haven't even been born yet. Krillin yelled in surprise. Vegeta didn't know what to think about seeing 3 future kids of his fellow Saiyan, but he also wanted kids of his own. They're from the future and they must be here for something important that includes Goku. Naruto said, with them nodding with serious expressions. When he suddenly got in a group hug with his kids. And you're Super Saiyans, oh, I'm so proud of you 3. He cried in joy at seeing his kids so strong, making them and others sweat drop. Wow, Mom and Mama Anko were right, you are strange just like they said. Mia said, but got a questioning look from Naruto. Mama Anko? Naruto asked. Yeah, she kind of helped us raise us when you died. Mito said, surprising everyone, and Naruto was just staring blankly at her, making her squirm a little under his gaze. Okay, I think it's time you tell us what you're here for. Piccolo said, coming out of his shock, but they shook his head. We can't yet. Not until Goku gets here. Sorry. Renzo apologized as they wondered why, but accepted it. Not like they could force them, as they were stronger than all of them except for maybe Naruto. Oh yeah, before I forget. Mito said, suddenly getting their attention as she walked up to Yamcha, who was sweating a little. Crunch. Ah. Yamcha screamed as he collapsed, holding his balls where she had kicked him. That was for staring at my chest, you pervert. She told him with narrowed eyes as everyone backed away except for 2 people who were laughing their ass off. Ha 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 ha. Naruto and Vegeta laughed as they rolled on the ground, enjoying the pain that she put him through as the others winced from the crunch sound. This is going to be a long 3 hours. Mia sighed with Renzo nodding. When will he get here? I'm getting bored here. Mito complained with a pout, making Naruto chuckle. It's almost time. He should be here soon. Renzo told his sister, who was lying on the ground. I see you've inherited the Uzumaki temper and quick to boredom. Your grandma Kushina is like that. He told her, which made her happy to hear. What's she like? Mito asked, getting a raised eyebrow from him. Don't you know about her though? He asked, but frowned when they shook their heads. Well, he was stopped when they saw the pod come into view, making him sigh, and told them that they'd talk more about it later. Guys, we have to hurry. Freezes herein. He saw everyone was cheering for him, confusing him. Yay, what? He asked, confused. Well, now that you're here, we need to talk to you about something, and something that everyone needs to be warned of. Renzo said, getting serious, putting everyone on edge at his serious attitude. He's right. So listen up, everyone. Dad, you too. Mia said, with Goku looking at him at what he heard, but didn't comment for the time being. 3 years from now, on the day of May 17th, 2 androids will show up on an island 9 miles off of South City. Some androida made by some crazy scientist are gonna start slaughtering people. Gohan asked. And everyone died against them, but you never mentioned me or Goku. Naruto questioned as he pointed at Goku. He's right. Goku said after realizing that he's right. Well, it's because you both died not long before the androids appeared. Goku died of a heart virus, but with you it was so unknown that we had no idea what it was. The only thing we were able to figure out was that it had to do with your DNA. Mia said with a frown at the lack of info about her father's virus. Vegeta was deep in thought at that piece of information at what it could be, but would need to make sure before he said anything. Damn, he cursed with a frown. Relax daddy, we brought a cure for him, so you can W these guys into shape for the fight in 3 years, Mito said with a smile at her father. And now that we have this, we'll be just fine. Goku grinned with a thumbs up. Naruto had a thought that came to mind. Who else am I with in the future? He asked, rather curious about his future wives. Well, let's see, there's Mama Bulma, Mama Caulifla, Mama Kale, Mama Anko, Mama Hannah, and others I won't say as it would change things, but you have quite the harem dad. Renzo smirked when he saw Vegeta laughing at his father's expression at not only being denied information, but also at the amount of women he's with. Anko and Hannah, I should have seen that coming as we have been together for a few months now. He nodded when they heard and looked to see AS approaching them. Naruto. Bulma called out to her husband. He looked at her and saw Caulifla, Kale, Tights, Anko, and Hannah with her, making him go pale at what she'd learn about his death along with the others, but more his death would bring him a world of pain from his wives and girlfriends. Ah shit. He cursed under his breath with his kids snickering at his misfortune. Well, it's time to go, but you two can stay here with them. This means more to you than me, Renzo said to his sisters, who looked at him in surprise, but nodded and hugged their brother for this before he got in the time machine and left. Bulma and the others got to the group and were checking him for injuries. Are you okay, Naruto? You're not hurt, are you? Kale asked, making sure there was nothing wrong with him. I'm fine, Kale, but how do I say this? He said, trying to think about how to tell them. I'll do it, Piccolo said, getting their attention as they all looked at him. One explanation later. You damn idiots. Can none of you not die for once? Bulma shouted at her husband, who had a sheepish expression on his face. It'll be all right, dear. Nothing will happen. He tried to ease her worries, but he was bonked on the head by Caulifla. She's right, ya know, and what do you mean it'll be all right? You're going to die of a disease that we don't know about. She said in an annoyed, angry voice, making him shrink under his wife's girlfriend's gazes. Now who are you two brats? Anko asked, looking at the two kids from the future. Well, Mama Anko, my name is Mito Uzumaki. She waved at them with a sheepish expression. And I'm Mia Namikaze. Nice to see you again, she said with the same look as her sister. Are you our kids? Bulma stuttered in complete surprise, but it changed to a grin when she nodded and pulled her into a hug, with Kale doing the same thing. Oh, just look at you, you're so cute. I bet we have to beat all the boys away, huh? Bulma teased her daughter, who blushed red in emberment and grumbled something about embering, only smirked in amusement. But why did you call me Mama Anko? The snake mistress asked, now curious. It's because you married Naruto and you're like a mother to us too, and not just our birth mothers. Mia said with her nodding in acceptance. Now that's all settled. Welcome back to Earth, Goku. Naruto greeted his friend, who grinned back. Thanks, Naruto, I can teleport. He told everyone as he instantly was gone and back with Sungles, but not just any, but Roshi's. Oh, you better teach me how to do that, Naruto said in excitement, thinking how great having that technique under his belt would come in handy. What should we do now to prepare for the androids? Gohan asked, getting everyone back on track. We train, of course. If they're as strong as we were told, then we need to get as strong as possible and surp our limits, Naruto said, with Goku agreeing. Who wants to train with who though? Goku asked as he saw the two kids from the future stand by their dad, who smiled at them as he pulled them into one-armed hug, making them smile back and lean in a bit on his shoulder. Jin and Fasha looked at each other for a moment before Fasha responded. We'll be training together for now, so it'll be us two. Also, Goku, can I speak with you for a little bit? Jine spoke up to her son who she had remembered and wanted to get to know after hearing so much about him from her grandson and daughter-in-law. Goku looked at her confused, but nodded as they stepped away from everyone. Gohan saw this and smiled along with Naruto, who was happy for him that he could have his mother in his life. Vegeta, what about you? Naruto asked the prince, who smirked. Well, we never did get to spar, so you owe me for that one. Vegeta said, with Tights shaking her head at her boyfriend's antics, but was happy that he was making friends. Well, sort of. Gohan, Piccolo, he asked the two, who nodded at each other. We'll be training with my dad, as I want to learn from them since they were my teachers before you started training me. Gohan said, with Naruto nodding in acceptance. Krillin, Yamcha, Tien, and Xiaosu, what about you four? He asked the four humans. We'll just train on our own. Krillin answered, satisfying him. What about us, Whiskers? You never mentioned us. Caulifla shouted at her husband with a glare. You're still pregnant though, but once you have the baby, then we can start training again. I promise, he said to his wife, who nodded, making him sigh in relief. His wives sure have tempers, even Kale does, and she's the most tempered one. And us too? Hannah asked, referring to her and Anko. I think it's time we can start training in heavier gravity now since you've gotten the hang of using ki. He told the two former Konoichis, who nodded. With everyone having a plan, they left the area to head back home to rest, having had a long and interesting day. 4 months later. It's been 4 months since they learned of the android's attack and how they needed to prepare for it. Like he said he would, he started training the twins, and he saw where their limit was, and he was impressed if what he did to Frieza was an indication, but if they were getting beat by the androids, he needed to push them. Their full power was great for kids their age, but wasn't as close to Naruto's as they thought they were. Their battle lasted for 3 hours, but Naruto won in the end and had some bruises from them. Now he was pushing to see how long they could stay in their Super Saiyan form and fight in that constant state. They thought it was genius and that they would do it and usurp their father. He also learned a lot about them, their likes, dislikes, and such. He loved them and had grown to be very protective of his daughters since they arrived and would go shopping. They got a lot of looks from guys who were leering at them, and he wouldn't let any guy take them away, so he would raise his ki slightly and scare them off. Of course, they would tell him to stop and that he has nothing to worry about, but he wasn't going to risk it. His girls are too young and won't be dating anytime soon. He had started adding more gravity to them when they trained in the chamber, and it would started off as twice the gravity, and now they could handle 4x Earth's gravity, which was great in Naruto's opinion. They had come up with their own ki attacks, and he couldn't be more proud of the progress they'd made. Of course they still used chakra as it was versatile, but ki was awesome to have still. Caulifla, Kale, and Bulma had given birth to 2 girls and 1 boy, and it was the best moment in Naruto's life in seeing his kids be born. He would always love, care, and protect his family with his life. A month after giving birth, Caulifla was ready to start training again and to become a Super Saiyan, but Kale wanted to relax more and be a stay-at-home mom, which was fine with him as long as it was what she wanted. Naruto was now with the 3 girls in the gravity chamber, and Naruto was sparring with Caulifla while Mito and Mia watched as they wanted to see their mother become a Super Saiyan. Come on, is that all you have, Caulifla? You can do better than that, can't you? He questioned as he blocked another strike from her that was starting to get on her nerves. He'd been antagonizing her for a while, getting her angry enough to transform, as that was the key to it. I'm trying, she shouted as she kept her attacks going, but just as before he was blocking them with ease with a bored expression on his face. Really? You're not trying hard enough. What are you going to do if I'm not here to deal with someone like Frieza? Are you just going to watch as everything and everyone you care about is destroyed? Exclamation mark. Think about our daughters. They're hunted on a daily basis by the androids for sport. Are you going to be so weak and let them hurt our little girls? He shouted as he could see her hair and eyes changing color, making him smirk. She just needed one more push to do it. What do you think will happen once they get bored of just hunting her down and finishing things? She dies and there won't be anything you could do to stop them in your weak state. He finished when he felt a surge of power coming from her. She screamed in rage at the thought of her daughter being killed and she wouldn't be able to help or stop the androids. She needed to get stronger than she currently was. She didn't want to be weak, or else how could she protect everything and stand by her husband who's done what she couldn't do? That was the final nail in the coffin that she needed as she exploded with power as a blinding light filled the room, and when it died down, it showed Caulifla transformed as a Super Saiyan finally. He smiled at his wife and couldn't help but be proud of her and her conviction. "That's my girl," he said, but wasn't prepared for when he caught her fist and she threw a kick, but he caught it and pushed her back that created a small shockwave. "How do you feel?" he asked her. "I feel incredible. Let's do this now. I need to pay you back for what you said." She smirked, but then got a serious look that made him shiver, knowing what he said had helped her, but it was also hurtful to call her weak. He transformed into a Super Saiyan initial state and they charged at each other for the remainder of the day would be spent like that. Speaking of the androids, he would need to get much stronger himself. If they were as strong as Super Saiyans, then he would have to find a way to evolve and find the next level. These next 3 years would get him to find out if it was possible.